And I'm live. That is pretty cool. Today is 27th of March 2026, Friday. And before beginning, a quote from Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. Okay, let's see this one. This says, this is apparently from book 8, quote number 2. This says, on the occasion of every act, ask thyself, how is this with respect to me? Shall I repent of it a little time? And I am dead, and all is gone. What more do I seek if what I am now doing is work of an intelligent living being and a social being and one who is under the same law with God? Okay, that sounds awfully religious, but okay, let's read it again to make more sense out of it. On the occasion of every act, ask thyself, how is this with respect to me? Shall I repent of it? Okay. Ask, is it good or is it like bad? Then a little time and I am dead and all is gone. Okay, the thing that I'm doing right now might not matter because in some time I might die and everything will go away. What more do I seek if what I am now doing is work of an intelligent living being? Okay, what I could do instead of what I am doing right now, which would suggest this current task being suggested to me by a more intelligent being and a social being and one who is under the same law with God. Like, question what you're doing and do a better thing if you could. I think that is what it means. And cool. Today we have to work on the go TUI, and yep, in the last stream we made quite a few changes in the backend to allow anonymous players to play some games, but those changes I like went straight up to implementation. Instead, I should have like at least given some thought to the architecture. And yep, I guess we will have to revert all the things that we did there because this just seems wrong here. We made a lot of changes to things. The current architecture is that a user who is authenticated has a token in its header section, and in the body or not in the body, and it does not have a token in its header section. And currently the user has the token and the like specifications about the type of game in the query parameter, like the token and time limit for the game, increment, and the color. Everything is in the query parameter right now. And the only thing that we want to change is that a user without a token also can play a game. And what happens right now is this: authenticated users. We have defined the open handler, the on message handler, and the delete handler, the like close handler. What happens when the WebSocket closes? On open, we will do exactly all these things that we are doing here. What we can do is, if a token is absent in the current request, the user, we can give them like a random username, or we can just call them anonymous and give them a random user ID. That would work. A random user ID and a username which would be anonymous, and we can legit just use this same handler here. But we do not want anonymous users to play a game or to be matched up with with non-anonymous users, with users who are authenticated. So either we have two different data structures to store both of these things. Either we have that, or or the current data structure which we are using, we update that to include a flag about anonymousness. And also right now in the database in memory, we are storing stuff in queue, even though we should not store stuff in queue, because like it does not make sense to store stuff in queue. There is no queue. If there are two people in a list who want to play a game, they will be paired up with each other, so there is no need for a queue, which makes so much sense. Object queue, here the key is color, and then the value is right now empty, but eventually the value is going to be a record of string to game queue object, in which we have username, user id, and ws. But here we are mapping a string to that thing, but we should not do that. We should just have a single variable which works. So here key is time and increment. Get time key in this anonymous games user queue dot color. This part gives us a map, this map, because we have used the color as a key. This thing gives us this map. Okay, so right now what we are doing is we are changing our, you could say, in memory data structure to be changed from a list of users who want to play a game to a single variable, and just that is it. Get this. Okay, and shit, I guess writing comments is a good thing. We should write comments so that you do not forget what you wrote. Memory. User data and all that stuff is here. Okay, it makes sense that here color is the key. Maps color to a map of time increment to a map of user ID to game object. No, I do not think that the inner map is of user ID to game object. We can have a better idea by looking at this thing. Okay, cool. Get time key. Yep. If anonymous, then like do this stuff. Otherwise, add game queue. Otherwise, if not time key in this game queue, then add a time key. Okay, the first key is the color. The second key is the time key, which is time plus increment, and its value is a map where a string, we have a string which maps to a game object. What is this string? Set user id. User id maps to a game object queue. Okay, but instead of this thing being a map, this could be a simple object, which would be much better. Yes, like actually would be much better. Let's change this thing to be a object. But before we do that, I would like to revert changes to how they were a few commits ago. And for this, we have to use GitHub features. This is going to be cool. Let's see. Git status, git log. I think like this, we can see the last 5 commits. Git no pager log n5 graph this. Okay, we made this commit TUI initialized. Start page in TUI helper functions for handling anonymous. Yep, this thing we wanted to revert the last commit and we want to go back to this one. So how do we do this? Let's see how to go back to a commit and git. I guess we just use git revert or something. Git checkout, git reset hard, commit hash hard reset, delete everything, resets your files and history to the specified commit. All uncommitted changes will be lost and also committed ones, I guess. Soft, keep your work, moves the history back, but keeps your current changes in the staged area so you can recommit. Undo a specific commit. Yep, I guess we would like to remove everything in this commit. And I think we can just look at the last 6 characters and that works. Okay, this might just break. Okay, git reset hard unknown. This thing is unknown hash commit hash git revert and do a specific commit revert. Yep, that is what we want. Use git revert if you have already pushed your changes to shared repository. Instead of deleting history, it creates a new commit that does the exact opposite of the target commit. Yeah. Git revert. I think we can here say head like this. Shit. No user name directory head. Shit. Shit. Please commit your changes or stash them before you merge. Local changes to the following files would be overwritten by merge. Okay, that is fine. Shit. Please commit your changes or stash them before you merge. This one. Git add all this source backend. We have also some changes on the front end, which is crazy. Git commit intermediate get no pager log, and we want to revert this commit git revert this and shit auto merging and this conflict. Okay, where is the conflict? Git add changes to be committed. Okay, unmerged paths, fix conflicts using git revert continue, skip changes to be committed, backend database game.ts. There are some things here. Shit, nope. Where are the conflict? Backend APIs, game start auth.ts. Okay, here are the conflicts. In the original or in the current file, we have this, and before that, we had this. Merge conflict marker encountered. Expected one argument. Okay, shit. Then in that case, like remove this and keep this. Cool. And the other file is database memory.ts. Remove all this. Cool. Yeah. We would like to change the function signature to. You have already pushed your changes to a shared. Instead of deleting, it creates a new commit opposite of the target commit. Does the exact opposite of the target commit. Okay, what if we want to do a range? Shit, yes. Let's abort this thing. Git abort. I guess okay, everything is cool. Now we would like to give a range of commits that we want to like revert. No commit, revert a range of commits. This applies the reversal to your files without automatically committing, allowing you to review them first. Git revert oldest dot newest. Okay, git no pager log n5 graph, and I guess short or something. Hello, even I finally configured new vim, but not with Lua, with Nix. Okay, shit, what is Nix? And like that is pretty cool. Next, community and configuring new vim with Nix allows for a fully declarative. Shit, Nix is a language, that is crazy. Nix vim, new vim configuration system for Nix. Shit, is this what you're doing? Shit. Wait, does it mean that Nix is a separate language which you can use for configuring new vim? That people can use to configure new vim? Yes, shit. Yes, Nix is used to configure new vim primarily through NixOS and Home Manager tool. Nix as a language and package manager. Nix is both a package manager for NixOS. So you use NixOS, I suppose. It is like a declarative language for configuring things. You can declare and configure your entire system. Okay, and I suppose Nix is developed by NixOS people to configure NixOS, and you are using the same language to configure your NeoVim also because you are familiar with NixOS, or you might be using NixOS in your everyday life, so that is more natural to you. Okay, shit. That's cool. That is cool. And I hope you have committed or uploaded your configuration to GitHub so that when your Linux system goes kaput, you can re-download it. You can automate your entire Mac setup in a few minutes using Nix. Darwin. Shit. I can use it on Mac OS. Uh, This project aims to bring the convenience of a declarative system. Declarative, declarative like React, where you just tell what I want and your like system, NixOS in this case, I would say, figures out how to do it. The only prerequisite is a Nix implementation. Both Nix and Elix are supported as the official Nix installer does not getting started despite being okay. Let's see someone's video who has configured their macOS using Linux. Hide my home screen. Darwin on macOS. Wait, shit, it is a replacement for Homebrew? That is crazy. Wait. Shorts. Wait, there are no shorts. There are. Whipping up the babies, got the pot. Shit, this might give copyright. You can see the video of Dreams of Autonomy. Wait, so what does it actually give me? What do you mean by configure my operating system? Like what can I exactly do? Dreams of Autonomy. Wait, shit, this guy. Okay, shit, I will check it out. I will check it out. Months later. GPU. Hey, cool, that's cool. Thank you for that. I will check it out. Someone once suggested aerospace and it has been working like amazing. Hey, look at this. Look at this aerospace. Pretty cool. Okay, and now back to this thing. Yep, how to make the thing short. There is a command, like a specific flag for this one line. Log n5 graph one line. Cool. And yeah, get revert. First you have to give the oldest commit and then the newest. Oldest is this one, fd2b7cb, and the latest is 0b f6d10. How many characters is this? 1 2 3 1 2 3 7. And shit, wait, what? This is newvim, but git is opening newvim. Okay, this reverts commit, this one, which is I guess the latest one. Please enter the commit message for your changes. Key line is starting with this will be ignored, and an empty message aborts the commit. On main branch, your okay, these are the changes. Okay, where do I enter the message? I guess here, revert the oh shit, empty message aborts the commit. Where do I enter the message? In here, do I guess here, somewhere here. Yep. Like the apps you want to install, files, management, you Apple settings, and wait, Apple settings, I can change Apple settings from my terminal. That would be cool. That actually would be cool. And you can install apps not available in Nix with brew and brewcask too. There is a way to automate brew stuff in Nix too. Okay, so for like changing my Apple settings, installing apps. Shit, yep, Yabai is also there. I have not used Yabai. the message. This is already okay. Shit, that is the message. Cool. So what do I do? Like quit save. Uh, if it is new him, yep. And if it is nano, okay, cool. I guess we are done with this. Shit. Git about git status. Everything is cool. Git no pager log last 6 commits. Let's see. And in graph, one line. Revert intermediate, and I also want to revert this one. Let's see, is it reverted? Nope. Nope, anonymous is still here. You want to revert this? Git revert, we want to revert this commit, this one, ft2b7cb. Yes, that should be cool. Yep. And okay, hopefully that was reverted. There is no anonymous here. That is cool. There is no anonymous anywhere. That is even cooler. Cool. Shit. No pager. Yep. Cool. We have reverted the previous two commits. Cool. The one where we added all the handler functions. So essentially, right now we are here, starting page in TUI at this commit. Git push origin main. We would be able to see stuff here. Yep. What have we done? We have just like removed all this stuff. Yep. Cool. Now on top of this, we can make like actual real changes. Changing the queue of users who want to play a game from a queue, that is from a list, to a single variable. That is what we want to do. Database mark not set. Okay, fine, cool, whatever that means. Here, color, and then a map from string, this maps colors to a map of time increment to a user with that color and time increment. So we change this from wait this, User ID is the string here. Get game object. There is also add game to queue. Add with this user ID. Yep. Get game object. Get the key. Is game queue. Game not found. Otherwise, the game is there. Then get game map. If it is not equal to undefined, then let user ID maps keys dot next dot value. Yep. And if user ID is not equal to undefined, cool, okay. We don't have a list. We do not have a list. What we have is a key value pair. And we can change it from a map to an object. Game queue object. Yes, this is the user data, which already has the key, so we don't even need the user ID here. Shit. This is cool. This is good enough. We already have the user ID, username, and WebSocket. Cool. That works. That does work. That does work. Okay. So here, yep. Game queue object and initially empty objects. Yep. Static variables, maps, color, time, and increment to game object q. I guess it should not be the name. Q. Yeah, we should rename this from q to something else. Game waiting object, and not game. I guess user would be better here. Yep. User waiting object. And this would be game waiting object. Cool. Which is being called here. Cool. To game object, time increment to user waiting object. Okay, that makes sense. We if we have a color and time and increment, we can find a user who might be waiting with that color, time, and that increment. User queue, the list of users who are in a queue. Yep. Cool. Set of users waiting for game to start. User opposite. Is maps users opposite users, maps opponents to each other. Cool. User WebSocket ID maps user ID to socket. Cool. Is game queue key in this? Cool. That will still work. Add game queue. Yep, we have to change this to add game waiting object, and not add, maybe set game waiting object. Set game waiting object. This thing will be equal to set game waiting object. Yep, get the time key, and for this color, for this time key, make it equal to this game queue object. No, this should not be named game queue object. This should be named user waiting object. This dot user game queue. These names should also be changed. Game queue to game waiting objects with a S, and add user to user queue. User waitings. User queue is just a set of strings. User opponent is a map between two strings. Cool. Is game waiting. Yep, and set game waiting object is user waiting. Cool. Get game waiting object. Get game waiting object, and get game waiting object. Here, get the key and see if the game is if someone is actually waiting there or not, and then game queue object map. Game waiting object. If it is not equal to undefined, then user id is object dot user id, just like actual user id. And user id, if it is not, if it equals undefined, then like shit. Get game queue object game No. This dot users waiting dot delete user id. Pretty cool. Fine. Remove game queue. We will have to change the name there, and here we will be returning game waiting object. Cool. And change the name here. Remove game waiting object. Good enough. Remove game waiting object. Takes all this, gets the time key, user this dot user waiting dot delete. If the user is waiting, then yeah, delete. Otherwise, fine, totally fine, no problem. And this dot is game waiting. If this game is not waiting, then okay. Otherwise, if the game is waiting, then just like this is not too complicated. This dot is game waiting, and with this specific color, with this time key, make it equal to undefined, just like that. Undefined. Type undefined is not assignable to this thing, which is a fair point. This does have game, or instead of making this thing equal to undefined, we can just remove this key, time key. Dot delete time key. This expression is not callable. This expression is not callable. Type is not call signatures. What is the type of this H? Record. It is a record. We should be able to delete this H dot. Nothing in H. H is an object. So the type of H is a record from which we should be able to remove some stuff. If time key in H. Okay, not callable does not make sense. Why is it not callable? TypeScript cannot invoke an object which is possibly undefined. Okay, if H, then if H is not equal to undefined, then H dot time key, what is undefined, cannot invoke an object which is possibly undefined. This expression is not callable. User waiting object, user waiting object, this thing, which is this. This gives us a user waiting object. No. H is a record. To type this. undefined. Okay, now the problem is that we have an object, we have a record where the key is a string and the value is some object, but how do we remove this key from here? We can make it equal to undefined, but that is not good because if the server is running for long time, for like days without stopping, then these undefined keys would pile up. So instead of making their value equal to undefined, it would be much better to just remove the key itself, like no overhead. Wait, record from where key is a string and value is an object. How to remove that? Remove some key value pair, like delete the thing. You still, yes, that is what I'm trying to do. Delete, like delete. Okay, delete h bracket time key. Shit. Okay, that works. This thing, if you prefer a non-mutating approach, returns a new object without the key. No, I do want to mutate. Cool, this is better. Or for a dynamic key. Key to remove. Cool. This is better. Cool. Remove game object. And adding comments would be a good thing here. Set is there a game object waiting with the given color, time and increment? Question mark, double question mark. Set game waiting object. Set game waiting object with the given colors, the given color, time and increment. Cool. And this function get game object with the given color, time and increment. Okay, increment to remove game waiting object. Just yes, the given color, time and increment. Cool. Is user waiting? I don't think I should write a comment. This is like makes sense. This is for some debugging. Get user opponent. Get opponent. Get the opponent of this user. Cool. Is user playing? Tell us if this user is playing a game or not. Set user opponent. Set an opponent for a user. Remove users where we have IDs of both the users and delete them. Static. Get user color. Get the color of this users with the of this user with this given ID. WebSocket user ID WebSocket is the type, socket and color. Map user IDs to socket and their color. Okay, I guess we are cool. There are no errors. Remove user opponent. Cool. Get user color. Set. This is some refactoring, some cool refactoring. Wait. Hello, Andrew Bahadur from Nepal. What is with this terminal stuff in Go? Yep. Let me show you. TUI, I want like if you know about Primogen. Imagine he has a coffee company. Like, yep, that is his hat. He has a coffee company, and if you want to order coffee from his company, you can do it from the terminal, which is very cool. You can just do ssh terminal.shop, and it takes up some time, and you are here. And now from here you can like order your coffee, which is very cool. This is very very cool. I want to make my chess game available just like this. Like someone will do this and sha.com or something like this, and they will be redirected to a UI where to a TUI where they can play just chess. And right now what I have is this thing. This is not very big, but this is good enough. Select a game type, rapid, blitz, bullet, and nothing happens. You can just switch between three options. That is all that you have right now. I have to make some more implementations. Right now what I'm doing, like this is what I want, and to make this possible right now, here in the backend I am making a new API using which you can play a game without having an account via Cobra or Vanilla Go. No, I'm not using Vanilla Go, and I'm also not using Cobra. I suppose Cobra is a TUI library in Go. CLI? Wait, it is CLI framework. Nope, this is not CLI. I am using Coffee T, which is a TUI framework. Cobra seems to be a CLI framework. Like this. I want a TUI framework, for which I'm using Coffee T. Go. Shit. Shit. I guess I'm not using Coffee Tea. I'm using something else. Wait. May not go. Bubble tea. Shit. Yep. I'm using bubble tea. Bubble tea, and this is the code right now. Very basic stuff. Just you can like, switch between three options. And before making this TUI, we have to make some backend changes. Okay. And right now, what I did just now here is earlier what used to happen. There's some touch of React. Yep, bubble tea has some touch of React. You have a state which updates, you define an update function, and you define like how your state looks on the terminal. And right now what I did is, this was very stupid. When I first made this app in the backend, there is a list of users who are waiting for a game to play. But this is a stupid thought, because this list will never have two users. Like if there is a user who is waiting and another request comes in, I will never add that new user in this list because there is already a user in the list. So I will pop out that user and take this new user and start their game. So yeah, that was stupid to do this. So what I'm doing is changing it from a list to a variable. So whenever a request comes in, I will look at that variable. If it is empty, then this variable will have this WebSocket. And when the player 2 comes in, backend will check this variable, and now it is like filled. It is not undefined. So I will make this thing undefined and start a game between this user and this new user, and cool. So changing this from a list to a variable. And the benefit of this thing is that now I can have two variables. One variable for anonymous users and one variable for non-anonymous users. For authenticated users. That is like the goal. We will have to figure out some actual implementation stuff, but yep, that is the thing, and I guess this is done. User queue. User opponent, user queue. Shit. Import this as user waiting object, which is down there. Shit. Users waiting. Cool. Okay, so now we have done the database part. We have to do some changes at other places. Right now, start game. This is the thing. These are the handler functions for authenticated users to have their game. This thing runs after this middleware, authenticate query plugin middleware, and this middleware gets the token and gets the user out of that token here in jwt.verify, and then adds that user to the context of this request so that that user is then accessible by the handler function, the open handler function. But we want this. So either we create a new route for unauthenticated requests, right? Yep, for unauthentic, which I guess would be better, which I guess would be better, creating a new route for, instead of having the same route slash game slash run, we can have another route defined for all the unauthenticated users. Okay, like anonymous users. I was made stockfish package to in Go. Go is very cool. Go is very cool. Stockfish package. Wait, so if someone uses your package, they can just like use stockfish. That is very cool. Shit. I guess stockfish has also has some token system like chat GPT and things where you have to have a API key because stockfish runs on a server somewhere and it needs to calculate the new moves, which takes money, so you cannot have access to stockfish for free. I don't know. Shit. So I suppose in your package, the user who is using your package, no, I mean it can be open source, but where will you run it? Are you the user who is importing your package? Are they getting, is stockfish going to run natively on the machine where the user is running their Go code, or you are making an API call to some external server where you give them the state of the game and it returns possible moves and all the stockfish data. Okay, so I guess you are making an API call to stockfish and it is free. Shit, that is cool. And shit, that is actually cool. And something is taking, Windows server is taking 1.5 GB. Okay, shit, that is a lot of RAM. And why are there two node servers running? Yes, NeoVim somehow takes like node. Yep, one of the node servers is gone. Bun is running somehow, and NeoVim also runs node by default somehow. Okay, let's work on this. Wait, what? Yep, we have changed the thing from queue to a variable. Now we want to add a new path which would handle anonymous functions and also update the handler functions. Let's make a commit right now. Git dev. Yeah, cool. Refactor. Changed user game queue to queue from game queue from list to variable, which makes more sense. Okay, and now we have to add more handler functions for anonymous users. It's cool, which is helper functions, not handler. Game start. Anonymous game start.ps east, all this stuff. Game slash anonymous slash run, this would be the thing. Someone hits this, they can, I guess in this case, we need to have another middleware function which just does not care about the token. It only gets the query parameter for getting the color, time, and increment, like this stuff is the only thing which happens here. We can make a separate function out of this, a separate middleware out of this, either that or separate middleware, or we can write this function. Yeah, making a separate middleware would be better. Premature optimization is the root of all evil. Auth, not auth, anonymous game start plugin. Is user waiting? No, there is no user. If the user is in the queue, is user waiting? Read the user. Shit, there is no user ID and stuff. We need to create a random user ID here. User ID equals obrist dot we need a function to generate a random user ID. We can use the zobrist function which we already have. No API call, it just runs locally via command line. No, the program which you have written, it might be running locally through command line for running on server Docker image with Stockfish. Okay, shit. So Stockfish is running locally. Shit, that is cool. That is cool. You will need some GPU, which does not run on 900 and 90% efficiency every time. You need some GPU that is empty. Zobrist interfaces. Zobrist. We need this get random function. We'll make this public. Cool. So that it is now accessible in the plugin, auth plugin. Here is obrist dot get random number. All this, that will be our user id and make user id, and also convert this thing into a string. Cool. Gets color, time, and increment for, and also generates a random user ID for anonymous gameplay. And yep, we will be using this plugin instead of auth plugin. Anonymous game start plugin. Cool. Username is not there. Username is anonymous. Cool. Current player has type this instead of username, or we can give it some username. That would be anonymous. Pretty sure there is no e at the end of anonymous. Okay, cool. And check if there is a opponent with this id and this function. Yep. Now we have to make some changes to the handler function. This function gets the color and get game object, get getting object, get waiting game waiting object. Yep, we do need separate data structures and separate functions for these data structures. Separate methods, or we can have a single method which takes in as a parameter whether the user is anonymous or non-anonymous. Does not need much of GPU, are like 8 threads on Lenovo IdeaPad, and 200 millisecond per move is enough. Shit, 8 threads. Okay, it does not take much GPU. I guess Stockfish is optimized in that case. That is cool. And also is Stockfish is optimized because it is only doing one thing. It is like it specifically knows that it wants to look for chess. So yep, makes sense. Separate data structures and separate handler functions. Right here, user opponent. Yep, someone is calling me like a random person. Shit. DDoS. Bro got DDoS. Got doxed. Get a game object with the given color. So okay, let's create separate variables for anonymous users in the same class. Yes, in the same class. Anonymous user and game data. Cool. Game anonymous game waiting objects. Anonymous game waiting objects. User waiting is something that we do not need. user operand is something that we do not need as a separate thing. Yep, we do not need this as a separate thing. We do not need this also as a separate thing. We only need this list as a separate thing. Yep, cool. And is game waiting. This thing needs to have a anonymous counterpart. Is anonymous game waiting, and this will look at anonymous objects. We'll set game object. This does not need to know anonymous or non-anonymous. This is cool. Game waiting objects shit. This need to know anonymous needs to know anonymous or non-anonymous set. Shit. Game waiting object. Cool. Is user waiting? Yep. Anonymous game waiting object user ratings dot add this user as a user who is waiting get game object with the details given above. This function also needs to have an anonymous counterpart. Anonymous is game anonymous game waiting. Shit, I'm getting a call again. Fine. Const game waiting object. Start game waiting object. This has to be anonymous. Get the object. Hello. Web1 is not optimized. It runs via WebAssembly. Shit, that is cool. That is cool. Okay, shit. When we play, so you are saying when we play chess on chess.com and we see stockfish things, there is no external API request that is going out. The stockfish is actually running on the browser. It's crazy. Hello. Just be him. Shit, I saw that you uploaded a video. I think I liked your video, like by clicking on it. C++ outside of browser. Cool. My exams are over. What should I do now? Maybe watch Dhurandhar 2, The Revenge. It is very good. Or build some objects, some projects. Anonymous game waiting object. Oh shit! Like, yeah, you have a lot of time. I guess you can just build some crazy shit, experiment out, get into stuff. Anonymous game waiting object. Anonymous game waiting object is not equal to undefined. Then, yep, get the user ID, remove the user ID, and remove anonymous game. Should we have to define anonymous game removal function? Remove anonymous game waiting object is anonymous game waiting a delete. Cool. Is user waiting and all the other functions are the same. Remove game object. Remove anonymous game object. Game waiting anonymous. It's game waiting object. Return that. Cool. And yep, okay. All the rest of the logic can be same. Anonymous game start. Get opponent. Get anonymous. You have to define another function. Get anonymous opponent, and this thing will call get anonymous game waiting object. And shade this thing, if this not equal to undefined, then do this. Cool. Go back. Anonymous opponent. Get the anonymous opponent, and if there is an opponent, then figure out which player will play with which color. Remove anonymous game waiting object, and remove anonymous game waiting object. Set user id socket. It does not matter, anonymous or non-anonymous, and set the users as opponents. Cool, that is also cool. Set game object. Not cool. No, set game object is also cool. Set game object is also cool. We don't need to know whether anonymous or non-anonymous. The only distinction, the only time that we need a distinction is when we are figuring out, when we are making up the pairs. I'm learning Python library and also doing some HTML and CSS for now. Cool. It's like, yep, that is cool. Keep doing it. Username is not there, indeed. Anonymous. Cool. Okay, and close. Username is anonymous. Cool. So yep, we have made the right changes in the open function. Get set game waiting object. Cool. And now here, I don't think that there has to be a change in the message function, except for the fact that we do not want to store the game. Just like end the game, but do not store the game. And here also, do not store the game. Prepare to store the prepare to end game. Cool. Shit, I guess this is ready. This API to play a game. Okay, I guess this is ready. And before moving on, I would like to go to the washroom, and I will be right back in 1 minute. Start. Wait, damn. Now I'm free, so now time to do stuff. Yep, you can maybe restart your video editing with making edits of traffic lights. Okay, you have no idea right now what to build. Maybe it if you do not have an idea of your own, then maybe you can copy from, yep, here, code crafters. Build your own X. Yep, you can go to this repository. Yes, sure. What is FFS? You are using code language. uh, Maybe you can build a 3D renderer if that is your thing. Building 3D or augmented reality, that would be cool. I would like to build a Docker. Building Docker would be cool in C, or maybe also in Go, in less than 100 lines of Go. That would be cool. In Python also you can build a Docker, your own Docker in Python. In Go, shit, the article is also very small. Syscall, look at this low level stuff. Syscall is happening here. CMD, crazy stuff is going on. Proc, self exec. Go is cool. Go is cool. Like, let's go. Okay, and back to this. I guess this is okay. Now if we do hit this endpoint, we would be able to play a game. How do we test this? How do we test this? We can test this by making a few changes in the front end. Temporary changes in the front end. Front end, source, pages, or lib, network, WebSocket. Instead of hitting game/run, we can hit game/anonymous/run. At game/anonymous/run. Let's see if this works. Run wide, front end is running. Run backend is running. Yo, Docker is for real written in Go. Shit, Docker is written in Go. Um, Docker languages, Docker written in. Let's go. Okay, shit, it is actually written in Go. That's cool. Yep, build your own X. New, move this to 4. Localhost start. I would have to log in. And I do have to log in before starting a game because I have not changed in the front end. I have only changed where the game start request is going and not the all the stuff around it. So yep, we do have to log in. Cool. Localhost, and this like globe stuff we have here going on. It's cool. Start. Shit. Error starting game. Why is there error? Error starting game. Shit. This thing run failed. Why? Okay, this thing failed. I guess we should do something about this. Are we getting here inside the open thing? I guess we are not. Hmm. Game create Zord. This thing should have color, time, and increment, which are there. Then get all this and okay. Log. Anonymous player coming. Yes. Run the backend again. Start. Shit. Error. Starting game. Error. I guess it, of course, because yep, there is error because we have defined this thing, but we have not added this thing here to the APIs. Dot use anonymous game start plugin. No, not the plugin, but anonymous game start const anonymous game run. Anonymous game run. Now we should be happy. For start, cool, finding an opponent and finding an opponent. Very cool. But they are not playing with each other. It is crazy. An anonymous player coming. User this wants to play a game. Why are they not playing a game with each other? Are they able to play a normal game apart from anonymous? Like, because we changed our queue from a list to a variable, maybe that is causing some error. So let's change this back to this, right? And stop the front end, restart the front end. Hey, what? Install website. Okay, cool. Well, I can build Git. Yep, you can build Git. That is going to be cool. Allow. Shit. Why allow? How allow? Start. Okay, they are not able to play a game. Is game waiting? This function is messed up. Console.log. Okay, and also set game waiting object. Set this thing to this object, and I'm guess maybe we have to unpack this object instead of making it exactly equal. Okay, restart the backend. So yep, okay, you can like of course go study some CS. Okay, and what we see, empty. The thing is empty. which means we are not setting the game object. Set game waiting object. What is the thing that we get here? Log user waiting object of type user waiting object. Okay, let's see. We'll run this. Like CSS and HTML, and cool, nothing is lagging. Empty, or wait, shit, I guess we are not even calling set game waiting object. We are calling something else. Set game waiting object. We are calling this. We are calling this. Adding this user to the queue. Let's see how it goes. Are we setting the user to the queue? Okay, we did print something and we did set the user to the queue. See? Okay, shit. Cool. Okay, cool. That is very cool. That is cool. Okay. Let's change. Adding this person to queue. There is console.log, console.log, console.log. Cool. And in on anonymous player coming. Cool. And in database memory, do not console.log this and this. Cool. In the front end, let's change the target URL. Anonymous. Okay, cool. Now from the front end, yep, front end is a bit messy. And then back. Cool. Start. Restart. Do we see user anonymous? Cool. User anonymous wants to start a game with these specifications. Anonymous user coming. Anonymous user coming. Okay. Wait, laptop is getting very hot. Is anonymous user waiting? Which part is messing up? Anonymous user game start, and whenever we get to here, console.log, adding user this to the queue. Are we ever adding a user to the queue? Let's see. Did we add this user to the queue? Yes, we did. And yes, we did. But I guess when we are getting stuff from the queue, we are set anonymous. Yep, we do have to change the functions that we are calling. Get anonymous game object. Cool. Find out stuff. Remove anonymous game. Set user ID. Set game object. Set user object. Set stuff to anonymous user is user playing fine as it is. Get user ID. Cool. Get game object. It's also cool. This game ended. Cool. Okay, shit, they are playing a game as anonymous. Shit, that is very legit. Pretty cool. Shit. Okay, now we do have a way to play to make anonymous players play a game. Let's like just finish this game completely. Okay. Uh, shit, black player is this. We checkmate, and it is the white player won the game. Cool. Game over. Cool. Shit. Now anonymous users can play a game. It's pretty cool. Anonymous users can play a game. Now we can go back to working on our Go project and also like change this back to non-anonymous. Git add everything, git commit new feature. Backend can handle anonymous games. Cool. Now we can start working on the Go TUI finally again. So main.go. Cool. How long has it been? 1 hour 38 minutes. Fine. Game type selection page. Okay. Okay. Now, yep. Game type selection. Game type selected. Game type selection page. Okay. We decided that there are going to be multiple pages, and we wrote all that in Excalibur, but now I lost it. Shit, I guess not. What book? No. Shit, yep. These are going to the pages. Select game type page. Yep. There has to be a loading page, and there has to be a gameplay screen page and an end game page. Let's write code for loading screen. Game types is going to be a string which is written enums.go. Yes, cool shit. Cool. Status loading. Cool. Here after this, if status m dot this update game selection. Yep, if we are on game selection page now, game loading page, if m dot status equals status loading, then what to do? Then do nothing, like skip. We do not want to update. Yeah, we do not want to do anything. Nothing updates. Yep, cool. Render model. If it's state game selection page, game loading page, here if m dot status equals status loading, the status is loading, what to print. Yep, s plus fmt dot s printf in red game loading. Cool. Cool. What happens when we are loading a game? Okay, now we also have to see case enter. When someone enters, presses enter after selecting their game type, what happens? A connection has to be built between this TUI and the backend. So that is going to be crazy. Okay, how do we make a connection? Web sockets in Golang. WebSocket package. Okay, that is cryptic. Define all these variables. How to create a WebSocket? Message count int import WebSocket, and then WebSocket.json.receive ws. Call this function. Name data type t, receive JSON type t, and again, from where are we getting this ws variable? That is receive text frame. Ws, what is ws? Why are we? Let's ask Claude. Sockets. How do we create WebSockets in Golang? Let's see. Gorilla WebSocket. Gorilla is something. HTTP FMTP updater WebSocket dot updater check origin HTTP request allow all. No, not a server but a client connection. Main function HTTP dot handle slash ws handler, which we defined here. This function takes in w of type HTTP response writer, and this connection upgrader dot upgrade this request and this nil. Okay, shade upgrader to upgrade a HTTP request to a WebSocket request. If there was some error, then give error. Otherwise, yeah, cool. And defer connection close, like close the connection at the end of this function. Then for read message. Okay, cool, that is fine. Sending JSON. Handling multiple, we do not want this, we want a basic client. Yep, that is what we want. WebSocket dot default and dialer dot dial this thing with nil, get connection error and something else also. If there was no error, cool, at the end close the connection. And also dot write message, read response. Okay. mm, okay, how do we define on message? Read response dot read to I define on open and message handler for for a client socket and go. On open runs once after the connection, and then for on message we run a loop instead. Loop that fires every time a message arrives. For message this equals connection dot read message. Whenever there is a message, get the message and do stuff if you want it. Non-blocking, like JS event. Yep, we want it to be non-blocking. On open, then on message. Rest of your program continues here. Wait, what is this go thing? I think this is some go specific thing. Run it in a go routine. Okay, so now we are on the question of what is a go routine. And yep, what is a go routine? And we lost the chat. What is a go routine? See, right. Go by example, go routines, go by example is pretty cool. Okay, a go routine is a lightweight thread of execution. We have a function, we call the function like this, or we directly call a function, or we call the function with go at the start, or directly call the function in place like this. Time not sleep. Suppose we have a function call fs. Here is how we would call that in the usual way, running it synchronously like this. And here, to invoke this function in a go routine, use go fs. This new go routine will execute concurrently with the calling one. You can also start a go routine for an anonymous function like this. Our two function calls are running asynchronously in separate go routines now, waiting for them to finish. For a more robust approach, use wait group. Time dot sleep, time dot second. Print done. To running asynchronous in separate groups now, wait for them to finish for a more robust call. Okay, when we run this program, we see this output. What does this function do? This function prints numbers. A string from direct 1 to 3, direct 0 1 to 3. Yep, and then go routine 0 going Okay, we see going only once because okay, yes, we have a in place function which prints going, and then done after time dot sleep time dot second. Okay, cool, cool. Channels is also something in Go. Okay, so there are Go routines which are light level threads. Lightweight threads. Go routines are lightweight threads. Lightweight threads. And okay, lightweight threads. Does this mean that the threads are being managed at the programming language level and not at the OS level? They just seem like threads even though they are not threads. Shit, okay, they are actually doing this. This is called MN threading. Go maps M Go routines onto N OS threads. Okay, that is very cool. That is very cool. How this works, the Go runtime has its own scheduler that decides which Go routines run on which OS threads. Okay, there are OS threads and there are Go routine threads, and the Go runtime manages. And the main plus point is that the number of OS threads is lower than the number of Go routines, which makes Go routines lightweight threads. The OS only sees the OS threads. It has no idea about Go routines. Yep, and that is a true factual statement. When a Go routine blocks, example, waiting for IO, Go scheduler parks it and runs another Go routine. That is very, very cool. The trade-off, since the OS doesn't manage Go routines, Go's runtime must handle things the OS normally would, like scheduling, stack growth, and preemption. This is extra complexity in the runtime, but the programmer does not have to worry about it. But the performance benefit is worth it. This model is also used by other languages like Erlang, as Java also does this. I guess the virtual threads, Python also has this. Okay, and here, but this trade-off doesn't concern the user of the language and only worries the developer of the language, the people who are building the language. Cool. That is very cool. The runtime handles all the complexity behind the scenes. Cool. Okay, that's cool. That is very, very cool. And also there is a part that sharing of data. Now, how do we create a client? This server, multiple clients. Nope, we want to make a client like this. Okay, that is how we make a client in Go. Okay, websocket.go, paste, shit. This is not main function. This is WebSocket function. First, I also have to install the WebSocket. Wait, yep. The WebSocket library, go get this. Source TUI, go get. This should be working. github.gorilla dot as web socket start socket. Okay, cool. Send a message. At the end, close the connection. Localhost. Yes. Yep. Okay. Localhost WS. Nope. The connection must go to a URL like this. Yep. WS base URL, which is something /game/run /game/anonymous /run. Right, and this I guess is to port, check for error, cool, and then on open handler when the connection opens. This function also takes in the state. This function also takes in the state because, yep, the state will be modified later. M of type model and unused parameter, we will use it, don't worry. Start socket, yes. Here this will first of all change m dot status equals status loading. Yep, no comment is needed there. M dot status, make the status loading. Unused, write to field status. Unused, no, we just want it to be like this. And when this thing opens, then m dot status equals game status play. And in the front end, we manage a game object, which we also need to manage in Go. We have to define all the enums and everything that we defined for our JavaScript thing. Game object, something like this. Okay. We can define them here. Export interface, we need an interface in Go. Hello, Prisma. I'm doing good. My exams are going on. Shit, I thought exams are over. Just BM was saying his exams are over. Shit, they are taking too long to finish exams this time. There's no export. Interface, is there interface? Expected declaration found interface. We need to create an interface in Go. How to interfaces or something similar. There are interfaces. Type. There are types in Go. Implement the interface like this. After defining the type is struct. We already have a way of defining. Yep, we can just define a struct. So what is the difference between interface and a struct? Here we are saying that model is a struct which has all these fields with these types, like integer or a list of strings and all this. Then what is the difference between this and having an interface? Implement the interface like this. Struct rectangle. Use the interface. Difference in Go structs and interface. What is the difference? Structs define data while interfaces define behavior. Structs are collections of fields. They group together related data of different types into a single unit. Okay, collection of data or data types are sets of method signatures. They specify what a type should do and how it does it. Implementation. So, okay, like interfaces have functions while structs do not have functions, I guess. Struct has this. Say hello. Person of type person has all these fields. And then we can define a method on top of it later on top of a yep, person later on. Interfaces define behavior. That messenger is going to have a function like this. Okay, so I guess using struct is better in this case for our use case. Board has to be something. Board number. Board. What is going to be board? Board is going to be type board struct. It is and before this we have to also define what is a piece. Is going to be an enum. Shit, okay, shit, this is a bad idea. Because how are we going to validate a move? No, we will not validate a move on the TUI. We can just, every time a player makes a request, we can send a API call to the backend and the backend will tell us whether we did right or not. Okay, cool, cool, that would be cool. Uh, white pawn type int or is equals iota. Red white pawn and okay, we have the pieces. Then board is going to be a how to define 2D matrix in Go of a specific size. Shit, I guess we can just say here type board 8 white piece. Shit, cool. List comes before. Yeah. int int zobrist hash and everything. We do not need zobrist hash here. We don't even need special move flags. Yep, shit. We don't need shit actually. Yep, we don't need anything here except from time. Yes, white user time and the other time. Special move flags, nope, not needed. Move times, not needed. Start time, not needed. These are the only things needed. Cool. We have our game object in Go. Okay. Okay. enums.go. Now websocket.go, and let's have a game.go function package name and initialize game object func in game object does not take in anything, and returns a game object, which you can say here game object type, and we can even name this thing, I guess, of type game object. Return shit game var game object of type game object, which we already have. Game object dot wide, and this also takes in takes in, not returns, model to look at the time or type of game, and this function needs to know the type of the game, which it can look at from here. Yo, hello, Thorfinn. To give you some updates, I have created on the backend APIs to play a game anonymously. A user can just come and play a game anonymously, which is pretty cool. And now I'm building on in Go a TUI to send a request as an anonymous player and play the game. Init board. This function does not take in anything. This just returns a board of type board. Board bracket yep, shit, this legit has to go through and add the pieces manually. Yep, seems like to be the case. Shit, so there have to be 64 lines in here. Board equals make uh, make where type and then size. Type is 8, piece size 8, and default value, no, I guess we have to like actually go through and put the default value for I equals 0. I is smaller than 8, I plus plus, and then internally j j and j, and board I j equals piece null. There has to be, yep, there has to be one more piece called the null piece. We have all the rest of the pieces: white pawn, knight, bishop, rook, queen, king. Pawn, knight, bishop, rook, king, queen, and nn. Here every piece equals nn. Cool. And then for I equals 0, I is smaller than 8, I plus plus, make all the pieces null, and set the pawns. Okay, set the pawns. So board I shit board 1 I equals white pawn, and board 6 I equals black pawn. Set the rest of the pieces. We have to set the rest of the pieces manually. That is board 00 is white rook, and LSP. And this board is on the heap. So yep, that is something. Set the pieces for the rest of the pieces. Cool. First we have the rook, white rook, then knight, bishop, queen is on the D file, which is, I think, right. King is on the E file. Yep, king is on the E file. And then bishop, knight, rook, same for black. Cool. Get board, get the board. There's some error, some cannot make. Type must be slice, map, or channel. Okay. A list of pieces cannot make this value of this in assignment. Okay, we cannot make board equal to this. Memory for I equals 0, I is smaller than 8, plus board 0. piece is an integer, cannot make int shit. Okay, so board 0 has to be of type a list of pieces where there are exactly 8 elements in the list. But when we want this thing, um, compiler cannot make this value of pieces as 8 pieces. Makes sense. Shit, how do we fix this? Getting memory in Go. Okay, I can use make int 8 to get 8 int long memory in memory. Yep, in memory. And then how do I convert it to some type with a specific number of items in the list, like where uh, items of type 8 integers specifically equals make int 8. That won't work. Yes, that is the problem. It returns a slice. While this is an array, makes sense. Makes If it is an array, then it is already initialized. We don't even need. This is an array, so we don't need make or anything. We already have the memory for this. For loop can be modernized using a range. Modernize for loop in Go with range. For I equals this range 10. For I equals 0. Range 10. Modern is this automatic. For loop is something. Loop in Go with range. Range nums. Range 5 prints 0 through 4. Okay, so for this equals 8. Range 8. Range 8 and init board. Init board is cool. And init board is cool. And init game object. This takes in m, which is the model, and based on the model, yep, we initialize the game object. We don't have to write comments here. Makes sense without the comments. Okay, switch m dot not status game type selected case game shit. Enums, these things as enums would be better. Types of games, const rapid equals rapid, blitz equals blitz, and bullet equals rapid, blitz, bullet, missing comma. Okay. Case rapid expected. This okay. There you go. Rapid cannot convert. Rapid untyped string constant type rapid. To type int. Game times shit. Yes, that is true. If game type is rapid, then do something, and otherwise, yep, other things. Game object dot white time left would be in case of rapid milliseconds 10 minutes multiplied by 60 to get the number of seconds, multiply by 1000 to get the number of milliseconds, and same with black time left. And in case of blitz 2 minutes, let's change this to 3 minutes. Cool. And then game object dot black board set move number equals 0 initially. Cool. And game object dot board moves equals make a string empty string. Cool. And then return this at the end. Okay. Change the status to loading when we try to establish our WebSocket connection. check for error at the end, and here, yep, give this thing to the model will have a game of yeah, game object which will be defined here also, game object, and game object. No shit, yep, we will create this thing later. Initially this will be nil. Cannot use nil as argument here. Cannot use nil as argument. Okay, so right now what we want is we want to initialize our game object only when the user has started a game, and we do not want this to have some value before that. But in Go, we cannot seem to have multiple types like in TypeScript, where we can say either the thing is going to be undefined or some specific value, but we cannot do that in Go, so we need to do something else. Oh, 27 minutes would be 3 hours long. Okay, here we want initialized. Okay, if I have a struct in Go which is with if I have a yep, if I have a struct in Go and I am defining an object and struct with that type, uh, how is it that I don't get an error when I am not defining all the fields in that struct which are defined in the struct type? Go simply sets undefined fields to their zero values automatically. Okay. Okay, the only time you do get an error is player name error potential. Find named fields can skip some. Must provide all fields. All provided. Okay. This is why named fields initialization is almost always preferred in Go. Great name with this. Okay, but when we are defining the stuff without the name, then we have to, yep, okay, initialize them like this. Okay, so we don't actually have to define it here. Go will give it some default value, which is cool, which is cool, okay. And then, okay, here when we press update, this thing will call start socket with m, this start stock in socket function. updates the status to this, and then on open handler, this will connection limitation. That is bad. Wait, game object equals init game object. Yes, like this. Game object declared but never used. Yes, we are going to use it. M dot game object equals game object. Cool. Do this on open and do not change the state to play. Yep, not yet, just this. And yep, on open handler, then on message handler for yep, for while we are getting a message, for just like keep running this. Till the end, keep running this. Okay. Connection dot read message. What does this return? This returns message something else and error. This thing returns message type, message and error. Undefined message. If error is not equal to nil, if there is some error, then console.log error and exit. Otherwise, message, do not print the message. If there was some error, then m dot status equals m dot status equals select game type, and also connection dot close this connection. Okay, otherwise whenever we get a message, shit, we have to parse it as a JSON object. What does this return? This thing returns a interface, a single thing. Read JSON reads the next JSON encoded message from the connection and stores it in the value pointed to by v. Not enough arguments. What are the arguments that you have to give? Oh shit, we have to give in the connection, but we are calling this on the connection. See a pointer to WebSocket connection. See the documentation for encoding how to read this message in as a JSON object. How to do this? Hello, net HTTP. I don't know. I'm not using net HTTP here. I would be using HTTP if I wanted to start a server. That is what Claude said. If I want to start a WebSocket server, then I need HTTP to establish a HTTP connection, and then call upgrade on that connection to upgrade that connection to a WebSocket connection, and then work with that. We need to make struct no object in Go. There are no objects in Go, there are only structs in Go. Okay, okay, that is cool. Wait, am I calling some is shit in a game? I guess I should rename this stuff then. Init game struct, and this also init game struct, and this also init game object to init game struct. Cool. Okay, okay. Now I need to know how to read a response in JSON. Yeah, how to read a response in JSON, message in JSON. There is going to be a type and reload connection read message. Okay, after getting the message, start m, make a struct of this type and unmarshal. What the hell है? Unmarshal this thing, this message into this struct type, into unmarshal this thing into this, I guess is what is being said here. And yeah, do that, and if the error is not equal to null, then cannot parse. Otherwise do this. Okay, are there optional fields that we can check for, or alternatively use read json? What is read json? Does this just returns an error? Okay, so how to give optional types and Go structs? Can we give optional types? Marshall, pass the message and memory address of struct where we want to store that thing. Cool. And by looking at the memory address, I guess Go is able to infer what are the fields in that memory address and parse the message accordingly. Go doesn't have optional types. Shit. Must pass a pointer, integer pointer. Nil means not provided. Okay, instead of for JSON specifically, yes, JSON is specifically omitted from JSON if null. Generic type, no. Optional is either going to be a value or a set is always going to be there. Pointers are idiomatic go away for optional fields, especially when dealing with JSON. Okay, so I guess we should be using pointers like this. Omitted from JSON if null, if nil, if the thing does not exist. Interfaces may be optional type. Interfaces may be for optional types. Okay, so instead of using a struct, I should define the response of WebSocket in an interface. How define optional types in interface. Same pointer approach. Shit. Okay, this also does not natively have an optional type. This also uses the same pointer approach. You, there is no optional type in interfaces also. The only difference between interface and struct, as far as I can tell, is that in interfaces you can define methods, or at least the signature of a method in an interface like this. You can say that this player service interface is going to have a connect method which returns an error and takes these two things, which you cannot do in a struct, I think. Let's see if we can do this in a struct or not. Let's say we have this and we change this to struct. We cannot do this in a struct. Yep, we are getting error here. But in an interface we can define a method. Okay. So let's read the message. Okay, but before reading the message, we have to define the response type. Special move flags. Responses game. Move socket response. Yep, and this is the type. There should be a file named structs.go for all the structs. Shit, I lost structs. Yeah. Structs. Cool. We just have to now define socket response struct, which is going to have all these fields. Error, which is going to be there. Cool. Okay, then message is going to be a string. Cool. Over might be there, might not be there, so pointer to a bool thing. Y over is also optional. Shit, game over reasons which in itself is shit. Let's say string. Pointed to a string. Winner is also optional, so makes sense. Move is optional. White time left is also optional. I mean, for while defining struct, we could use interface if we don't know type stuff. If we don't know type stuff, we could use interface. How's it more advantageous? While defining struct, we could use interface if we don't know type stuff. But to define an interface, we do need to know the type stuff. Or maybe you are referring to generics. I don't know. this is also optional. Cool. Now we need a handler function. Shit. Enums y over reasons, y over game over reasons, all these things. Enums.go const const type game over reasons string, call this game over reasons a game over reasons substitute this with this globally and substitute equal to with game over reasons space equal to. Okay, and except for this one. Okay, and also substitute comma with emptiness. And my phone is going to die. Shit. Cool. Okay, we have this. Yep. Yep. Impossible condition. Yes, it is impossible. Okay, and now we have a strict for responses in WebSocket. Now we need to write handlers. Message nil, not nil, error equals connection dot read message, read the message, check for error. If there is an error, then close. Otherwise, parse this into message type. Let's see what this does. Parse socket, nope, shit. JSON dot unmarshal message into give it. Yep, we have to initialize here variable message of type socket response. Or instead of message, we can call this response or message. Seems better. MSG is undefined somehow. Why MSG is right here? Undefined. Okay. Socket response dot error. Type move is struct. So on is string clock interface. inside struct we can give an interface. Okay. I mean, I do not know this syntax. I'm just assuming that here we have a SAN variable whose type is string, and then we have a clock variable whose type is a interface, but we do not know the values of that interface. Like that interface could be anything. We don't know what it is. Cool, cool. Here the problem with this thing is we do know the type of the thing, but what we do not know is whether we are going to get that data or not in the response. So yeah. How to parse. And Marshall, I'm not type. Yep, define this and check for error. Right. Wait, shit. If error equals listen dot unmarshall read game of it is crazy. If there is an error, then change the status. Cool. Change the status and all that. Otherwise, message dot cool. Shit. Yep. We have all the things. Let's go. Okay, cool. That is very cool. That is very cool. We have all the things that we want. We can make these things nil. If p dot score is not equal to nil, then go to p dot score. And since this is a pointer, we don't have to care about the memory stuff. Not right now. Yep. Unmarshall does return error. Yep. Here it is returning error. Now parse the response, and if start of game, if start of game, if message, okay, we also have to know, yep, if m dot, and okay, about closures. Shit. Yes, we also have to take care of closures. Shit. We need to take care of closures. That is, since we are defining what should happen here, like what should be the on message handler for our WebSocket and what should happen when the connection starts and all that. At that time, we are taking M as a model, and this might mess up our work because we might be getting the value of this model M, the state, when we are defining when this function is called and not the latest state. So how do we fix the closure thing in Go? Yep, how do we fix the closure thing in Go? Which was not a problem in the backend, because in the backend we were fetching the game object every time, but here the model has a game object. The model has a game object here, and the model is an object. A struct. Model is a struct. Okay, I have a Go routine function which takes in a struct and then keeps running in the BG. I want this Go routine to have the latest value of that struct and not just the value it had when the go routine was when the go routine started. So yep, like no closure. Shit. Channels. Shit. Okay, one more new go concept. You need to pass the point it, not the struct itself, point it to the struct. Okay, that is one thing, but no, there is only a single go routine there. Channels. Let's see. Go channels. Go example. Where are channels? Channels. And how long has it been? 2 hours 57 minutes. I am hungry. I will be ending soon, but let's see what are channels. Then that would be the end after this. Okay, channels are the pipes that connect concurrent Go routines. You can send values into channels from one Go routine and receive those values into another. Okay, shit, that is cool. And I guess this is a simple abstraction over raw pointers. Return this message is a channel. Message is a channel. Messages is a channel which has a string, or is it a list of strings? Like what is it? This is a Go routine which is running, being called in place. This puts message and then put the output of message into the message variable, which is going to be a string, and then print message. It prints ping. Okay, okay, I guess we have to do some experimentation with this. Create a new channel with this value type. Okay, channels are typed by the values they convey. Send a value into a channel using the channel like left arrow syntax. Here we send ping to the message we made above from a new Go routine. This channel receives a value from the channel. Here we will receive the ping message we send above and print it out. When we run the program, ping message is successfully passed from Go routine to another via our channel. By default, sends and receives block until both the sender and receiver are ready. Okay. This property allows us to wait at the end of our program for the ping message. Okay. Let's do some experimentation. Package main. Shit, I have a C++ file here. Yes, shit, I do have a C++ file here. Make their test cd test. Let's go init here. Shit, mod init test. Package main func main doesn't do anything, doesn't do shit. Okay, and here channels dot go package main. We will define, we don't have to write it here. We test channels, and okay, go func. First of all, let's create a channel. MSG equals make channel of string. Okay, this thing msg puts in from start, I guess, call this, and then go func another uh, taken the value from msg and fmt shit dot print msg. Okay, and yep, we need to add a delay for testing purposes. I equals range 1e. Can we say 1e? Yep. Shit, cannot range over this because this is type float, so make this. That will take some time. Declare and not used I. A equals 0, a plus equals plus equals I. Okay, okay, so this thing will take some time, and when it is done we will print fruit. Okay, test channels, this function tests channels. Here we will just call test channels. We didn't have to close new vim, actually. We have this. Go run this and shit. Nothing. Shit. Don't see anything. And main dot c, we are calling test channels function, but you don't see anything. Empty dot print hello. Okay, we do see hello. Why don't we see the stuff that we are printing from within these things? I guess we cannot see the stuff that we are printing from within these things. Message. Yep. So, yep. Equals taken from message and print the message. Go run this. Start from bash code. And here, if you were to remove this, it will run. It does not run instantly. Let's try to increase the range. This was also almost instant. Should I guess maybe the compiler knows that nothing is happening here, so it is just skipping this loop. I guess which is probably happening. Yep. the compiler is just skipping this loop. It is not, because we can test it like this. Okay, straight, the compiler is not skipping the loop. It is actually running it. That is a lot of zeros. Billion. 1 billion is like around 1 second. This should take around 10 seconds. Let's see. Yep. And the program is not exiting. Cool. Cool, cool, cool. So channels are cool. Time, run, go. Time, run, go. Time is a thing. Yep. Time, run, go. Shit. Time, go, run, current. This took 2 seconds. 2.58 seconds. Okay, time is cool. Time is cool. Time command. The time utility executes and times the specified utility. So can we do time ls? Yes, ls is very fast. Time v top, let it run and then stop. And okay, shit, this has reported the time for which it was the total time this, when the smaller times are this. Time v top, stop. Okay, cool. And also that would be it for today. What we have done, we now know that in Go there are Go routines, which is cool. Now we know about Go routines, we know about channels a little bit. We can use channels late. We can use either channels in the handler function to pass in the model. Wait, no, I don't think channel. Yeah, we have to use pointer because our data structure is fixed and it is updating. We are not adding new data to it. We are just updating the data that already exists. Yep, we are not sending like back and forth requests. There is just one data structure which needs to be accessible by people. Cool, cool, cool. So pointer would be better in this case, or not just better. Pointer is the only thing we can use. I don't think we can use channels here. Also, that would be it for today. The stream is lagging a bit. Yep, that would be it for today. And thank you for being here. Bye.